Don't fall. Don't fall off. Annie, don't fall.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your boy Jamsys, and we're continuing our legend climb from, last week. We have 2 more weeks to go, or like 15 days or whatever. So that's always a good time. I'm feeling kind of like confident in the climb. Not like confident as in I'll make it, but like confident as it's possible for me. So I'm definitely going to be trying my best, but in the first match, my opponent picks Clilias, and I don't want to deal with Clilias right now, so I'm just going to pick Zio and Stene. And I've been liking this core a lot into Clilias first pickers that leave Zio up, just because it's very flexible, like Zio holds book, so you can always play for Stene. You can go more cleave or aggro if you need to, but they're very non-committal, and you having books to work with is just very nice overall too, But I'm kind of waiting for what my opponent's gonna pick. I'm hoping that Blue Thief isn't a sign for an incoming Rand, because I don't feel like racing one right now. But luckily it does look like it's going to be an Aiden and Bryceria, which I thought was pretty interesting. But that's also a very obnoxious core that I don't really want to play into. And now I have to kind of figure out what I'm gonna do. There are a few things about my opponent's draft that he doesn't have a book right now. So Karina is not the worst pick, just because Karina's like decent into Aiden and she's decent into Clilias. So I don't hate the idea. So I think I am going to pick Karina. But other than the Karina, the second pick that I'm looking for needs to be something that's able to survive kind of all this aggro, and I'm not too sure what it's going to be at the moment. I guess I can just pick DJB, just because DJB is pretty flexible. I can always, resist Clilias debuffs and push up after, and maybe like reverse cleave him somewhat. But again, I think we're in a pretty good spot. We're pretty flexible. We don't really care that my opponent is going to take Clilias, but I don't know what I was saying, but yes. I am continuing my climb. I'm pretty excited. The last week of climb will be very interesting because that's when it matters most. Oh, my opponent picks Landy, and I guess this is a speed Landy because that's the only way I could see him picking it. No. I know why he's picking it, because my team has no reach right now, so Landy's actually a really good pick. So if he picks like another guiding light unit last, I'm forced into like a really awkward situation where I can't really ban Clilias because everything else, because then I'd be Zio trapping myself. So I decide to just go for the Jacko finisher, I think, and I'm going to ban Aiden. And the reason is he either bans my DJB and lets this whole come through, or I'm thinking that he bans my Zio maybe. And then if my DJB resists everything, then I just win for free. But we'll see what my opponent does. We will see what my opponent does. My opponent does end up banning Zio, like I predicted. I think I made a mistake here. I think I should have put the DJB in the back, so I had the option to S1. But my opponent's obviously going to grab the first turn here. It isn't that surprising. If you look at the CR bar, it's kind of a mess where everyone's just together, but it's fine. I think we should be fine, even though everything does have attack down, just because I do have DJB with Eternus, and since he doesn't get attack down, I'm like hopeful, I guess, that he won't actually have a debuff by the end of this S2. But unfortunately, my opponent does end up pushing ahead, but an interaction happens that I wasn't expecting. My Stene isn't that squishy anymore, but since my Karina's so fast, she's actually able to cut above this operator Sigurd that was about to go, and now we're able to S3 with Karina, and we use Karina as a Jacko activator, which is something you're never going to see again, probably ever. But we S3, we do some decent damage, we S3 with Jacko, do enough damage to overkill Clilias for full health. And now I think we're pretty chill because we can delete Optic here. We luckily go into Landy because if we went into Bryce area, I think that would have been pretty bad for me too. No, because I think Karina would have been able to survive the combo of both Bryce area and Landy S3. We get a piggy stun here. I decided not to push up because there's no point. And once we kill Landy here, I think we're pretty much good to go. Or honestly, the game ended the second Karina pushed up. But this is like the weirdest reverse cleave you'll ever see. And I'm at peace with that. They rip Bryce area S3, and I'm kind of curious to see if this would have landed unbuffable on my Karina or not. And it looks like it doesn't have enough ER because my Karina only has 110 ER. So it looks like Bryce area just has like the base 18 effectiveness to land unbuffable but not strip, which is like understandable. We're gonna move on to the next match, but yeah, I've been playing a lot more aggressively by picking Zio. I've realized that picking Zio is just a really good strategy if your opponent's going for aggressive. Like if I recognize a cleaver or if I recognize someone that's playing really aggressively, I'll just pick Zio, cause that's always a force span if they're racing you, or it just discourages people from racing you. Like I used to use Clilias. But my opponent goes for the same thing here, so obviously I'm going to repeat what I did the last time and just go for a Stene Zio pick. And I'm kind of thinking about how I want to play this game. It's probably going to be either like an AOL situation or a DJB situation. I'm leaning towards AOL just because AOL is pretty good into this Karina too. But we kind of have to see our opponent's third pick. Depending, like maybe it's, I don't know, like, what's the normal third pick here? Oh, it's definitely not Rand, but if we're fighting Rand, that means I have to fight some sort of cleave, which I'm not too excited about. But maybe they pick something else. Because picking two openers and Karina is a little bit piggy, in my opinion. I don't want them to really pick Lua either, if I'm being honest. Yes, pick hand guy. We love running over hand guy. Oh my god. So now I'm like hesitant to pick AOL there, just because I decide to go for APOC plus DJB just because it's pretty decent into my opponent's first few units. And I'm just in a really rough spot just because if they pick something like Aiden, oh, T-Surin works too, I'm gonna have a really hard time killing that thing. And that's going to be very difficult for me to deal with. I wasn't expecting someone to race me like that when I had Zio, and since I don't really have my other speed unit up, like my fastest unit is actually my Lua, and she didn't get to make it through the draft, which kind of sucks. And I can't really pick Jacko here either, just because if he does outspeed me with Rand, like Jacko dies 100%. And having to ban Rand doesn't feel that great when I can't really deal with this T-Surin either. So I'm thinking I go for like a Senya angle or something. My opponent picks Sid. I don't think I care too much about that Sid, if I'm being really honest. So I go for the Senya and ban T-Surin, thinking that my Senya is going to get banned. But I think what happens here is that my opponent goes for the Zio ban, which I guess also makes sense just because he has a lot of debuffers. And we basically just give our team the most amount of imprints possible. We want to make it as tanky as possible. But yeah, my Stene is basically gonna die to this Rand S3 plus this Rand S3 plus Karina S3. But I just have to kind of hope that Senya should be able to solo, and honestly, as soon as the Clilias gets provoke locked, I think I've won this game. Or so I thought. Anyway, Rand rips his S3, like cool, nobody cares. Ooh, Rand's fair and balanced. We're able to activate our barrier with Senya. although that it doesn't look like my Stene is able to survive at this range of HP anyway, which is kind of tragic. So I think I make a few big misplays here. I think what I should have done is that I should have actually went for the kill onto Clilias, but I end up going for the Sid. But my APOC's really unlikely to die to this Karina S3 plus Sid S3, especially since we have the barrier from Senya, and they have a really hard time killing Senya too. But unfortunately, DJB push isn't enough to get Stene up to the front. So Stene immediately gets deleted by the Karina S3, which is to be expected. And I'm still feeling okay about this match just because I still have APOC S3. So if I manage to bring back Stene, it shouldn't be the worst in the world. But apparently the Clilias is on some cursed champion trophy tech, which I kind of hate. But it's fine. Immunity wore off on Clilias, so as long as I can provoke the Clilias, I think I'm pretty much bing chilling. We get our hit into APOC, which kind of sucks. It also did a lot of damage. But the Clilias stuns me, and then the Karina crits me, which is like, okay, buddy. And we eat a lot of damage, and we're not able to provoke lock this Clilias anymore. We get death broken, so our APOC's dead to the Rand next turn, which unfortunately does mean the game is over.
Well, she tried.
It really sucks because
she...
APOC missed a turn, which I could have used to like break skill null on Rand or something, or like soften up the Clilias. And then Senya getting crit by Champions Trophy is just like extra salt on the wound, but you know what? It happens. I remember hacking Kana and the like with my Champions Trophy on Clilias, so I guess it's just karmic justice or divine retribution or whatever you call it. But we're still bing chilling. One thing I do want to point out is that a lot of people have misconceptions that like, oh, I can't get into Emperor because I'm not good at beating other Emperor players. Like, I'm struggling to beat other champ players. It's fine. As long as you're able to cannibalize the rank below the rank you're getting into. Like, I have a really good matchup for the most part against other Emperor players and like kind of middling against Legend players. And that's more than good enough to get into Legend, which is something I found out from a close friend of mine. So, great info. Anyway, I recognize Proud Tinas as a cleaver, so I end up picking Zio to kind of discourage any sort of, racing shenanigans. But lo and behold, my opponent's fucking trying to race me with his 2 imprints plus Clilias. So, as I said, this basically guarantees that Zio is getting post-banned, so you can draft accordingly here. And one giant weakness about Clilias cleavers is that they have to rely on being able to kill with S1. And if you don't know about my gear, my Lua is EHP Kingdom. Like, she survives APOC S3s if there's like 1 or 2 kills on the board. Like, she's that tanky. So I'm able to pick my Celine here, and then I'm kind of looking for something that is able to survive and like may potentially deal with this Aiden. And I decide to do it through Briar Witch just because the Clilias is going to be disincentivized from pressing buttons anyway. And my opponent last picks Pavel, and Pavel doesn't have book, so he's less threatening, but he's still threatening enough to where I have to ban him. Unlucky. There were a few plays. I guess I could have tried to ego him by banning like a Wanderer Silk, but being 1 imprint down felt a little bit sussy to me. And we give HP imprint to Celine. I think I should have given it to Lua too, just because, like there's no way he's going to press S3 here on Clilias. So I have to make sure that my Lua plus Lua plus Celine is able to survive. Anyway, we do get outsped as expected, but our Lua is so tanky. We're able to survive, and Wanderer Silk doesn't cut my Lua, so we're able to just sleep her up and reset her up. And we land 8 for 8 with all resets, and we're pretty much bing chilling. The only loss condition I can see here is if like maybe I miss here with Briar Witch, so I guess the safer play would have just been to S1. But I was pretty confident I won at this point due to like all the beguiles and stuff. Like his team dies before they take another turn just because of how balanced Beguile is. And you know, I was about to run in an S3 Vildred and finish off Aiden and we would have won. But my opponent decides, seeing his team full reset and death broken is enough, and decides to tap out, which I perfectly understand. But yeah, my win rate's slowly going up. Like now that I'm not trolling for video ideas anymore, my win rate is going up. It's definitely not going to be 60%, and I don't know, a lot of people say that you need 60% in Legend to be respected, but I am not gonna hit that by like a mile, so we'll see about that. We'll see about that one. Anyway, my opponent decides to pre-ban very interesting pre-bans. Like Stene A Leica bans indicate some sort of slow play. So I decide to just pick my most OP units. Like I pick Lua just because Lua's good into everything, and I pick Zio just because Zio holds book and there's a lot of potential for Zio, honestly. Like especially if you have him on effectiveness, you can use him against a lot of these low ER bruisers, and by low I mean like 100 to like 150. I pick Bryce Area because Bryce Area bullies slower players, and I pick Strays, I think, just because he's pretty much locked in to slow play of some kind with his first three. Like I guess he could pick Rand Para, but I don't think I would really care. Oh my, he picks Green Armin. I used to die to this unit a lot when I used to eat a cleave with Clilias, or sorry, eat at Aggro with Clilias. And I'm looking for a different pick, but his team is really weak to injury. So I decide to pick DDR here, I think, because it's not a bad pick. Because he either lets DDR through, and I slowly kill him to death with Venom, or I just kill him really fast with Bryce Area Sober. My opponent opts to ban Bryce Area as I ban Edward because, you know, I picked way too many debuffers, but it's fine. This Zio S3 isn't that important. It's not going to do too much. I decide to run it into Destina and ER check it, just because to resist everything, like you need 200 ER, but maybe it's one of those like bulky arena Destinas. But apparently it's a counter set Destina with good ER, which kind of sucks. I decide to S3 here with Lua just because I'm gonna hit everything but this Destina anyway, and this match is going to take forever, so I'm gonna need all the resources I can get. We get Benimaru Tachi attack buff. We should be able to delete this Yolha, I'm hoping, and we are. I would say it was close, but like 40k overkilled it by like 10k HP, I'm assuming. Destina is able to go. She S3s, but honestly this isn't that important just because Stray's S3 doesn't really do a lot of damage if you're not the main target. A Yolha is reset, so as long as we don't touch a Yolha, we don't have to proc our S2 passive, and I think I can kill her with Stray's S2. Just because of the Aureus damage and whatever. We sleep up and venom up this APOC. We try to venom up this Armin, but we get immediately punished by a counterattack, which kind of sucks. It only stuns our Zio though, which is pretty good. And then now my DDR is able to go. I'm thinking of trying to sleep this Armin, but then I realize there's no point just because we're going to wake it up with Stray's S2 anyway, but I do it anyway just for the venom damage or something. And then we're going to go ahead and soul burn Stray's S2. I was kind of hoping the ignore ER would allow my Strays to put venom on Destina, but apparently that's not how it works. So unfortunate. Lua's able to cut and take another turn. We try to go for a death break onto APOC. We miss it. Unfortunate. My opponent, I think, can go for either an S3, but they actually go for the stun. But my Death Dealer Ray actually does have ER to resist like Stene-esque units or like Stene statline units. So we're able to soul burn and put our opponent's APOC to sleep. And now that we're at full focus with DDR, I think we're actually pretty fine. My opponent does push up the APOC, which kind of sucks, but I'm just hoping that I can, yes. Lua is fair and balanced, and my opponent's team is so slow. I was able to cycle back to another S3, and as long as I don't proc another Armin counter, I think I'm pretty much good for now. Or like, at least my DDR to survive. Anyway. Destina's special buff wears off, so it looks like we have enough ER on our stuff to actually start debuffing my opponent's team. So I'm hoping this DDR S3 does pretty big damage. They're not injured super far because I don't have solid DDR, but we're able to do like a pretty sizable chunk of damage, and now we're able to go and reapply our venom stacks. And we do get the attack buff again from Tachi, and I'm kind of like contemplating whether I just press S2 or not, but I decided to go press the funny buttons just because this game has been a clown fiesta this whole time. And we get no counterattacks, which I think was very nice. But I go for the S1 onto Destina, get another counterattack, kind of sucks. But it should be fine just because this Armin is pretty low. So this S1 luckily does crit and kill, and now that DDR is back up, we're able to Venom this APOC and kill it through the Venom proc, which is kind of disgusting. I just realized that my opponent's on Wondrous Potion Vial, but this Sestina is not surviving to another turn because Stray's S2 is just going to come and do another big round of damage with self-attack buff. And we get a win with DDR Anchor question mark. This is not a regular DDR setup I think most people expect when they see Strays, Lua, and Zio, but if it works, I'm not going to complain about it, you know? But it was such a clown fiesta of a game. Ugh. Yeah. Some fun news is that I don't pick Clilias just because I've been getting Zio Stenied into Clilias anymore. So I don't think Steny's like a great first pick for me anymore. But anyway, some good news about me is that if you know from like what I've said on the channel, I've been looking for like a job to sustain myself, and I recently got some really good news where I actually got a job interview lined up for next week. So please pray that it works out for me, because your bitch would like to try and, you know, spend more time making content. And if I have something stable to hold me down, I think I can like really lean into content creation, but please manifest it with me, guys. Anyway, my opponent picked Clilias Crowd, which is like very, very bedge. Nobody likes playing against it. But here we are playing against it. I have Zio Steny on my side, so it's always like doable. But I see a Arya solo, or like a potential Arya solo. So I pick Arya here. And do you know what is the common trend against people that aren't playing super aggressively? They love to ban Emma Leica. So I want my whole combo to go through right now. So I pick Architect Leica here, knowing full well my opponent's probably going to ban it. Just because, you know, yeah, like this Senya does not stop this Architect Leica. So I think my opponent's expecting me to ban Clilias just so my Architect Leica can get through, but I fully expect Architect Leica to get banned here. So I end up banning Designer a little bit just so all my debuffs get through. And if you haven't known, if you want really big freelo, like having Stene Briar on your side is really strong, as long as you're not getting cleaved. As long as you're not getting cleaved. Like that is the one asterisk about Stene Briar comps, is that they're like kind of susceptible to like cleave or aggro play. But yeah, we've pushed back the Clilias. My Zio is on effectiveness, so it's not that surprising. Because like even like your 100 ER Clilias are unlikely to resist. We press Soulburn S3, we apply Unbuffable on everything. We go for the kill here onto Clilias. or at least I try to. And then I think I go for the LRKS3 and try to push my opponent's whole team back. And that's what we do. My Stene is much tankier. Like, look at that HP. She has like 3k more HP than she used to. We're able to push back the entire team. And Senya has to press S3 here. But again, I don't think it really matters too much at this point. Senya doesn't have counter buff anymore. Sylvan Sage Rivian is unbuffable than Death Broken. I decided to press Arya S3 here. Technically, it would have been safer to just press S1 onto Clilias and ensure that she dies, but you know, who doesn't love an Arya solo? Even though Arya's probably gonna get like one S3 off tops and then immediately kill my opponent's team. We luckily do get rewarded for playing into our waifus, and we delete Clilias. We are now forced to be provoked into Senya, but again, she doesn't have counter buff, so I'm not really threatened by this. And then Bryce area is able to go chunk this Sylvan Sage Rivian for a lot of damage. Chatty can't proc just because, you know, unbuffable. And Steady goes, and my opponent's team, oh, I thought they would die, but apparently they're a little bit too tanky for that. But now my opponent's forced to hit into our Arya, and I think that'll be a clean waifu sweep. But yeah, please stay tuned. I'm going to be trying for Legend very seriously for the next 15 days or whatever, and that's going to need so much mental. But yeah, as always, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time. And please manifest good results for next week. TYTY.